You know, truth and reconciliation is needed in every home in this country. And last week, when the Kamloops Residential School uncovered the 215 graves, it opened up the wounds, the hurt, the anger in many First Nations people that attended residential school or descendants. But it also opened the eyes of all Canadians that what role do I play now? You know, as one First Nations person who is a chief of a First Nation which had a residential school, you know, this one was a little different because it really brings out your emotions. We had Flower Day on Sunday. This past Sunday, we have it every year at our community gravesite, which was once our Roman Catholic residential school gravesite. And 2/3 of our gravesite are unmarked graves. You could see the indents, and we keep it cut. It's a volunteer gravesite, but just looking at them is a little different now after what we found out last week. And so, you know, today is a day where Mayor Masters, leadership, all of Regina came together to recognize not only the RIIS gravesite that's behind me, but it's bigger than that. What role do we play in the truth? There's only one truth out there, and enough with the ignorance, enough with the get over it attitude. And that goes for both sides, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. We're all sharing this beautiful land together, and I have a 4-year-old daughter. I had to bring her because I want to make sure when she grows up that she can do everything she wants as an Indigenous woman and know that we're all on a reconciliation and nobody is in the grandstands.
What role do you think you play moving forward?
One of the toughest jobs in this country is being a chief. You always got to show your resilience, your determination, your vision. And being a chief with the residential school behind us, you sometimes manage poverty, mental, emotional, physical, and it's really draining on a chief. But, you know, my role as one leader in this country is to walk the reconciliation. You know, I did my education, I'm doing my ceremonies, I'm learning my language, and I'm showing all residential school survivors that this is what we can become. And also at the same time, having to keep the truth going. Sometimes we focus too much on reconciliation, but we forget about the truth. And that angers the ones that are walking this world with pain right now. That reconciliation should come, but it can't come till after we acknowledge the truth. And so the role I play is to educate. You know, we shouldn't feel cornered or feel bad because it is really heavy and that will come. But the reason of the truth is to acknowledge that policies in this country put us in the state we're in. We got, right to my left, a youth correctional center. If you ever go in there, 90% Indigenous children. If you go to the social services, 90% Indigenous children. If you go to our correctional center, 90% Indigenous men. Like, this is real. That's the truth. And we're not here to make anybody feel bad, but how do we now move forward with reconciliation? And so that's the role I play, is balancing truth and reconciliation.
What are the plans for the unmarked graves now on Cowessess?
Starting next week, Cowessess First Nation and Sask Polytechnic, we got a grant from Canada 2 years ago. And starting next week, we're going to do our radar identification on our unmarked graves. We're not sure what we're going to find, but we have done the ceremony. This recent finding in Kamloops of their residential school puts us a little more cautious in dealing with the ones that have that hurt and pain, that we must do this correctly. This is not about publicity or the optics. This is about finding every unmarked grave, and if we can't find a name, at least we can put a plaque there and acknowledge that there's a body there, that was once a human being that attended the Merivale Roman Catholic Residential School. And at the end, we'll put a monument acknowledging the story so anybody could come there and be a part of our grief, but also be a part of our healing and getting stronger.
What have you heard from other members of Cowessess since the news came out in BC?
You know, this one was a little different than others. You know, we're going to have more in the future, but, you know, we got to use these moments to educate everybody listening. Like, men have called me and have opened up and said this one is a little more emotional, makes them a little more angry, and it's tough for men to show their feelings because, you know, post-residential school, you're not supposed to show feelings. And so opening up is a little challenging because you got to have services, mental, emotional help there. But, you know, just calling me as their chief, it has made me honored to know how much more I have to do and how much more we have to do things together. So, you know, the community of Cowessess, the First Nations people, we're healing, but we're still trying to get to the truth as well at this time.
You said about 2/3 are unmarked graves. Do you have an idea of what number you could find?
The timeline is in 1885, the Roman Catholic administration started. In 1898, the official Maryville Roman Catholic Residential School opened on Cowessess First Nation. And it wasn't just Cowessess First Nation people, it was First Nations from the surrounding areas as well. From then all the way up to 1967, the Roman Catholic Church buried our children there, our ones that went there. In 1967, there was a chief by the name of Roger Stevenson. He got in a disagreement with the priest. The priest ordered his maintenance person to take a bulldozer and push all those headstones. And that is why today there's 2/3 of our entire gravesite that are unmarked because of a disagreement in 1967. So when you come to Cowessess, you see little indents in the ground. Today we want to make sure that they're marked correctly so that we can honor our area for them and for us.
And this is starting next week. Do you know what day and how long it could take?
We have a plan with Sask Polytechnic. We are starting next week. I do understand this story wants to be told publicly, you know, and respectfully. In Cowessess, many people are really hurt right now. So I was advised to let's do it first internally and share the story when the time is right to make sure that the ones that are in pain are not watching the news and finding the pain there. So we do look forward to telling this story in its true entirety. But at this time, it's just Cowessess and Sask Polytechnic starting it. And once we know more, we definitely look forward to sharing our story with all of Canada because we're all in this together. Thank you. Lower this just a little bit for you.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
There's
Thank you.
a fire.
Fire.
Chief, we'll also get you to say and spell your first and last name and then your title as well.
Sure. Roberta, Roberta, Soo-Oyewaste, Soo-Oyewaste, Chief of Standing Buffalo, Dakota First Nation.
Okay, and Chief, I guess what did these ceremonies today really mean to you and your community?
These ceremonies today represented strength within our own nations, how we can come together and find the strength to deal with what was found last week, our 215 angels in Kamloops, BC.
Why is it important that these stories and the history of the residential schools get shared?
It is very important to educate our children, our non-First Nation relatives, sisters and brothers, to ensure that they know and they are aware of the history of First Nations people, what they were put through at residential schools, the emotional, the physical, the sexual abuse, and the murder.
And
It helps by putting closure to a wound that those angels, they wanted to be found. They wanted to be put back with their family in their nations, to put some closure for their journey so they can move on. It's not the first, and it's not going to be the last.
Thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have like a little marker on there for Sandra.
I know, yeah.
Seriously, I just give up. And I'll do this. Hi guys.
I'm gonna have to get you to say and spell your name too. I don't know who's going to be listening.
Okay,
So sorry.
no apology. Sandra Masters, Sandra Masters. It's bright out here, guys.
I guess, Sandra, you helped kind of organize this along with the Indigenous leaders across the city here. Why was that important to you?
I started getting texts on Sunday morning about kind of the re-traumatization going on in the community, and everything from outpourings of sympathy and empathy on social media to, you know, the typical racism from the trolls. And we had made the decision to lower the flags already. That request was in, and I got outreach from Ritzis, from Erica Bowden, who said, Mayor, do you want to try something a little bit more? And I said, suggest it and we'll make it happen. And so 4 phone calls later, we had 4 sites lined up. And the reason behind it is I don't know if a human being can hear about the remains of 215 children in unmarked graves that doesn't kind of punch in the gut. And what I've learned on my journey so far as it relates to truth and reconciliation is that the truth is incredibly important, and to Chief Delorme's message of do not miss the opportunity to educate. And truth and reconciliation, you want to know what reconciliation stands for, according to me, is that we pause to commemorate and honor their spirituality and that traumatization that they went through and continue to go through. That's our job. If we're going to be true partners in this and build respectful and mutually beneficial relationships, that's our job.
The chief just said this isn't the first time we found remains, and it won't be the last, and we're in front of the cemetery right here. Do you, I don't know if this is city or province, but like, do you want to push for the radar itself to review to see if there are more, or is there plans for that at all?
So back in 2012, Stantec did do ground radar, and at the time I believe they found the remains of 22. There was an area of ground where the dirt had blown in so much that the radar couldn't reach it. But if this is a call to arms across the country from the province, from the federal government, and they're willing to participate in this, then there has to be the technology. And to Chief Delorme's point, again, we should find every single unmarked grave and honor it.
You had 4 different sites around the city. Why was it important you're here and the event happened here?
You know, when we were strategizing about where to go, there was a connection, a deep connection to Chief Cowessess being a woman and being a chief, and connecting with her here. In the words of Tribal Chief Bellegarde, he did say that the impact of residential schools has been borne a lot by mothers who are culturally in charge of the family. And so there was sort of that mother-to-mother connection. And so really it wasn't so much about the site as it was about being here with Chief Cowessess.